Nice. We already have some people. Let's just wait a little bit more for more viewers. Because the topic today is so good and useful. I just wanted more people to check it out. So guys, we're gonna start in like a couple of minutes. Please call your friends and colleagues and let them know that the second online session of Game Drive Season 3 is about to start. Right, guys? I have like a minute more. You can grab some coffee, some tea. We're gonna start pretty soon, in a minute. Once again, call your friends, call your colleagues. The session is about to start. All right, we're 5 minutes in. Let's start. Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us, and welcome to the second Game Drive Online AMA session in a series of Game Drive educational sessions open to everyone. Once again, please invite your friends and colleagues, irrespective of the team size, irrespective of the experience level. Anyone can join and get as much as possible from what we're doing here, from what we're talking about here. Anyone who would like to learn as much as possible about mobile game development and publishing. Once again, my name is Anton. I'm the head of industry relations at My Games, and I will be your host today. My Games and My Games Venture Capital, its investment division, are super thrilled to introduce the third season of Game Drive. This is a business platform for knowledge sharing, for communication, for expertise sharing with industry experts and investors, for mobile game developers, which we launched back in 2020. So this year, the program is powered by our dear partners, Amazon Web Services for games, Google, of course, Data AI, Deconstructor of Fun, and we've prepared a great program for this season in such a way that would be extremely beneficial and practical for you guys. And for the first time ever this year, we're actually doing the hybrid format. We've already done one online session back in May and one offline session, which happened back at the end of May at Nordic Game Spring in Malmö, Sweden, which was very successful, and we got some very positive feedback. So please check the Game Drive website. It's gamedrive.com. Very nice domain name. For all the details, for more information on the next sessions. And please do not forget to submit your game for review to the Game Drive partners and get a chance to receive an exclusive one-on-one feedback session, as well as investment, hopefully, probably, from My Games venture capital team. So you can submit your project again on the Game Drive website, gamedrive.com. Some technical details before we dive into the program of today. Our speaker session will take approximately 40 minutes, and then we'll have a 40-minute Q&A with all of you. So please prepare your questions and do not hesitate to ask them by using the Q&A chat option in the bottom panel on the Zoom call interface. You probably know it way better than I do, how this works, right? So yeah, as announced on social media, on the website, through email, today we're going to talk about live operations, live ops, and player engagement. This is one of the key elements in the success of your game today. And our guest speakers are from both My Games and Balancy, and they will discuss how to operate a balanced event schedule, how to approach offer systems, how to optimize content production, and many, many other useful insights based on the real cases from both War Robots and Grand Survival Raft Adventure games. Once again, please remember that we're here to talk to you guys, so please do not hesitate to ask questions, to bring your ideas and send them to the Q&A chat, or just in chat, whatever you prefer, guys, really, whatever works for you best. Yeah, let me welcome our speakers in today's session. So we have first and foremost My Games, my colleague from My Games, Fyodor Gerasimov, senior game designer at Pixonic My Games. Fyodor, say hi, please, to the audience, if you're here.
I'm here.
All right, pleasure to see you, and thank you so much for finding time and joining us. And then we have amazing, beautiful people from Balancy. So we have Pavel Ignatov, who is the CEO and the founder of Balancy. Hey, Pavel.
Hello.
And we have Julia Iliuk, head of growth at Balancy. Julia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting. Hi, everyone.
All right, sure. Without further ado, again, thank you guys so much to the viewers for joining us, and to the speakers, for finding time and for sharing their expertise, for finding time, to do that, to do all of this, to join Game Drive and to help us out here. I'm actually passing the word now to Fyodor. Please do your thing, and good luck.
Yeah, thank you. I will switch to presentation to my part. Yeah, hello again. And as Anton already said, I'm Fyodor. I'm a senior game designer at Pixonic Studio, My Games, and I'm working currently on a War Robot project, and I would like to tell you about how we implemented the leaderboard feature in our project and what results we got. So in the picture, you can see not me, it's our face of our leaderboard feature that was created by our artists. First of all, a couple words about War Robots. War Robots is a mobile tactical shooter about huge combat robots that was released back in 2014. And despite its age, it is still a top one tactical mobile shooter on the market. But the mature age means that it is quite difficult to implement features on this project. We have already a lot of features, and it is also very important not to cannibalize the features we already got. So it is quite hard to solve our problems. And let's talk what issues did we have at the beginning of 2022. First of all, we needed to increase our revenue, but the discounts we made in our games in so-called mini events didn't motivate to pay anymore, as players got already used to them, and we didn't want to increase them anymore. Secondly, our players have no motivation to buy, keep, and level up extra content units. So mostly they just sell the old and the old content and the content they don't use. So we wanted to inspire them to buy more content, or at least don't sell it. Thirdly, despite the fact we have a lot of features, we found out that we don't have much midterm goals in the game. Yes, we had battle pass and quests, but they already work not that well. And we had very few competitive meta features in our multiplayer game. That is quite strange. The only competitive feature was about the rating and making the top one player on the server, but no competitive for some less competitive players and for non-players. So what did we do to solve these problems? As it was already answered in the name of the presentation, it was leaderboards. What do I call leaderboards? Leaderboards is the feature where players compete with each other according to the certain rules that are established by the developers. The feature by itself is not new. We can see them in many other games, but mostly in battles. For me personally, the main reference was tournaments in Raid Shadow Legends. But for shooters, this feature is not quite frequent. And at the time we developed this feature, the only shooter I could find where this feature was implemented was Bullet Echo by Zeptolab. So we decided to make leaderboards, and is in the most implementation of leaderboards in other games. This is actually two features in one. First of all, it's the leaderboards per se. Players compete with each other to the first place, and the higher the play, the higher the prize. But we understand that there are players who don't want to compete much. And for such players, we created the second part that we call milestones, that are actually guaranteed rewards for soaring the required amount of points not considering the place in the leaderboards. Thus, we wanted to inspire all types of players to take part and do our tasks. Let's talk about the tasks, how two players can sort the points. We set goals for the players. To do this, we create a quite flexible constructor that can create a lot of different goals. This can be both economic goals, for example, upgrading robots, opening some gacha chests, and other. And these can be battle goals, as we call them, core goals, that are about participating in battles, winning, destroying the opponents, and or maybe using specific robots to deal damage. Such constructor allows us to mix goals for players without needing any code and create any new leaderboard in a very short time. We needed that in order to not limit ourselves in experiments and also to create visible diversity for the players. Almost all our leaderboards have both core or battle goals and meta economic goals. Thus, we give impression to non-paying players that they can compete in our leaderboards. So scoring points by participating in battles, but whales can gain their points from meta goals by buying stuff and spending their in-game currencies. You can think that how can whales and not players compete with each other in this stuff, but we will talk about it in the next slide. We created we didn't want to players whales and non-players and little players to compete with each other, because in that way non-players would be demotivated, as they would understand that someone can win just paying money, and whales would be demotivated as they will mostly have no one to compete with. To avoid this situation, we have developed a special system of matchmaking, or actually leaderboard making, which we internally call digital communism. We set 4 parameters on the server according to which the player should be distributed within the pools. These parameters are account level, spending over the past month, amount of games over the past month, and the highest league ranking over the past month. We, game designers and analytics, determined the groups, and then the players already gets into the tournaments with the others similar to them in characteristics. Thus, players of all categories are motivated to compete with each other, as non-players can compete in core goals, and whales can compete in meta goals, buying stuff and spending their currencies. Did it work? It is quite difficult to say how well this digital communism system works. On the one hand, we have really very few complaints from the players about the dishonesty of the leaderboards. On the other hand, we can see that the first place is often occupied by players by a significant margin. On the graph, you can see that on average, the first place player received twice as much, twice as many points than the player on the second place. We have the second place is somewhat bigger than the third, and the more or less a smooth distribution of scores till the end. The similar station can be seen in all leaderboards not depending on the goals or the group of players that participate in it. There is a hypothesis that the players who get to the first place really quickly demotivate the rest from competing for the first place. In this case, we have not much power to influence it. On the other hand, there it may be that our distribution of pools is not quite correct and requires further experiments that we will do. At this point, let's move forward on the goals we set for the leaderboards and what results we got. First of all, on our first release of the feature, the first leaderboard was a core-only leaderboard. So the players competed only by participating and winning the battles. There we managed to test the influence of our leaderboards on combat activity. And it turned out that leaderboards really increased the combat activity of most groups of players. Moreover, the fewer battles per day player had without the leaderboards, the more they had during the leaderboards. This is quite logical, as the players who play all their free time, they played all their free time even during the leaderboards, but the players who didn't invest much in the game or in usual days were ready to increase their investments in the game, or time investments in the game during the leaderboard. Secondly, a bit later, we tried to make factional leaderboards where we wanted to inspire people to use the certain robots from a certain faction in the game. However, we didn't observe any increase in the spawns of such robots during this leaderboard. It means that the players who spawned them anyway, they participated in leaderboard, but the players who didn't have these robots or didn't want to play with them, they just refused to participate, and it didn't motivate them to use the other content. For the first 2 months, we had one leaderboard per week. We were very afraid that we would give too much of currency and content as rewards, which would be a disadvantage for us if there is no impact on our revenue. After all, then it would mean that we give more than we receive. The days the leaderboard showed the good results, but we were not sure that if it was due to the leaderboards itself or it was due to a huge number of other factors such as discounts, interesting content, deficits of currency, or something else. And at this point, we realized that we had no way to check this influence of the leaderboards. And we had to develop a new feature, one more feature, an A/B test for leaderboards. And as some sort of little conclusion for everyone, during a design stage, it is quite worth to consider how you will measure the effectiveness of the feature you create. After we developed the feature of A/B test, we conducted the test. The group A received the leaderboards with core goals and goals for opening event chests that required to buy event coins. The control group received the leaderboards with the same core goals, but without goals to open the chest. On the graph, you can see how much players paid in different categories during this test. We can see that the players who received a leaderboard with goals for opening chests spent significantly more on event coins than the players who didn't have such a goal. But also we can see that the expenditures on the other things were not decreased a lot. Thus, we believe that the leaderboards really influence our revenue, and as a result, we can consider this feature to be successful. As I told already at the beginning, it was only one leaderboard per week, but nowadays we have 4 to 5 leaderboards per week, starting in different times, and we continue to experiment with them. We experiment with rewards, so with durations and with other parameters as group distribution and other stuff and goals. After all, at this moment, we still don't have a clear formula for the ideal leaderboard, but we are working on it. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, ask them in the chat section. I will answer them in the AMA section. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Fodor. This has been insightful. This has been helpful and super practical. Yeah, we already see the next slide, the slides of the next speakers. So yeah, as Fodor has said, guys, please, if you have any questions, just shoot them at the Q&A section of the Zoom panel or just the chat, whatever. Do not hesitate, do not be afraid. Do we ask questions right now if we have any, or do we do that after the whole presentation? Help me out, guys, here, because we have a question further, I know, but we can actually move on and then have the whole Q&A festival after the second presentation. All right, let's move on for now, and further, if you see any questions, please reply to them. So, how to organize complex game content to streamline workflow. The guys from Balancia, Julia, Pavel, please share your wisdom, enlighten us.
Thank you, Anton. I only have a little trouble with getting access to the screen. I'm trying to oh, yeah, that's it. Now I have it. Let's just check if it works, okay? It works, but it works with some delay. Well, and it doesn't work back, so let's always go further. So yeah, first of all, thanks, Fodor, for a very insightful presentation, and I was personally really happy for the results of the leaderboard experiment, and that it had very positive impact on player engagement and even on the revenue. That's really cool. We will continue the topic of live ops, but from the content management perspective. And in the next approximately 20 minutes, me and Pavel will share some tips on how to organize complex in-game content and streamline workflow of your game designers and programmers. But before we dive into the topic, it would be cool if we have a little bit of engagement, because I see there is nothing in the chat yet. So guys, if you're open to sharing what game genres you're working in, just write in the chat, like just the game genre you're working on. Yeah, it will help us to understand on which side of the game genre we are. Like, are we more on a casual today? Are we more on a mid-core? Okay, we have first answers. Grand strategy. Okay, don't be shy, share. Actually, the tips that we will give today, they'll be relevant for both casual, mid-core, but maybe we'll have more examples on the mid-core side of things. All right, also a couple of words about us, me and Pavel, so you know who we are. Yeah, yeah, so for the last 7 years, I've been in the gaming industry, helping game developers to find tools to better monetize their games and create more engaging games. I previously worked at the Dev2Dev Analytics platform, and now I am the head of growth here at Balancy. And I'm also captivated by the topic of live ops, of course. So I sometimes share some insights on my LinkedIn. So if you find me there, just feel free to add and we'll be in touch. Pavel, do you want to say a couple of words about your background, maybe as a game developer?
Yes, of course. I'm a passionate gamer and game developer. I used to work for big gaming companies such as Game Insight, Kama Games. I even had my own gaming startup 5 years ago. We were making a mobile version of League of Legends, I would say. And all that experience, like during 13 years in the gaming industry, they led us to build Balancy, to help you guys avoid the mistakes we made in the past.
All right. Now let's get down to the topic of today's session. All right. So I like talking about game designers as the magicians of the gaming industry, because they have all the power in their hands to create games we all love so much. And very often their magic wand are simple spreadsheets. In spreadsheets, they can store and manage simple in-game items, their pricing, calculate progressions, and do so many things. Actually, spreadsheets are a perfect tool for storing all kind of general data, like simple data, like items, pricing, progressions. But sometimes there are more complex data types that we need to work with. Examples of such data types are quests, survival game items, spells and abilities. And I suggest you now to focus on these examples of data types and understand why they may be tricky to work in spreadsheets and what we can do about it. The main goal of this would be to find a solution. So first of all, quests and tasks, which are an essential part of many, many games. Just think how boring World of Warcraft, for example, would be without quests, right? And there are many quest types. This can be campaign quests that are connected to the plot. This can be side quests, which are optional and do not have influence on the plot. There are daily quests that you complete on the daily basis. There are event quests related to celebrations and so on and so forth. Quests usually include a variety of tasks. This can be tasks from slaying enemies and collecting some items to simply trimming trees in your garden. And due to the variety of tasks and quests that quests may include, sometimes it can be tricky to store and manage this data. Another type of data sets that can be tricky to work with are items in survival games, simply because any survival game is built around tons of items. Some items can be consumed, like, I don't know, like a piece of meat, for example, to restore hit points. Some can be worn, like clothes. Some can be used as a weapon, for example, a gun. But keep in mind that as your game grows, the list of items and what you can do with it will grow as well, which consequently means your spreadsheets will expand dramatically. Now, let's talk about spells and other complex data. Just think how many variations of spells there are in games like League of Legends or World of Warcraft. You can use spells like Ignite to burn your enemy champion for several seconds, or you can use Heal to restore the health of your own champion. You can use Barrier to shield from damage. And each of these spells can contain a lot of various effects. It can contain multiple effects. And that is why we consider it to be complex data. So as a game designer, you need to find a solution to store and manage this game balance, this game content. And we will complete this task now with you. When we're looking for a solution, we need to think about game designers, who are the end users of the system we are creating. This approach should be easy to navigate, it should be user-friendly, and you should be ideally be able to change and manage your content remotely. But we also cannot forget about programmers, who are later going to take data from tables and add it somehow to the code, into the game. So we've collected here 3 different approaches, most common approaches that we have seen developers use. And we will start from less convenient approaches, and eventually we'll come to the most optimal one, which is composition. At glance, all these 3 solutions can seem appropriate, can seem workable, and partially that's true, but you will feel the difference when your game and when its content will start growing. So our goal here is to save you from mistakes that other developers did in the past, including Pavel. Actually, he was the one who has a first-hand experience with all of these approaches. That is why he will share a bit more on this.
Yes, let me jump in here. I will be using several examples to showcase you how you can create and operate with your spell system in any of your games. And the first approach we call huge tables. It's not an official name, but we like to call it like this because it clearly states the problem of this approach, actually. So how does it work? Usually you secure several columns in the table for some system data, such as IDs and names of your spells. And then for each of the following columns, you will be adding different effects which your spell might have or might not. If spell does not possess a specific effect, you just put 0 there. Let me give you just an example. Let's take a look at the first row for Fireball. So Fireball clearly has cooldown of 1 second. It flies on the distance of 50 meters with speed of 10 and deals damage 100. But if we take a look at later columns like slowdown, duration, radius, it has 0 values. It means that Fireball don't use those effects at all. In comparison, if you take a look at the Frost Nova, it has only cooldown, damage, and radius, which means that this spell makes damage in this specific radius of 5 meters. That's it. But it does not fly, it does not slow down anybody. The problem with this approach is that your game will grow, and the list of spells and possible effects will inevitably grow with the game. And in the result, you will end up with a very big table. Just imagine if you have 100 of different effects in a year after operating your game. Your game designer will struggle working with such huge tables because he will always have to scroll over back and forth just to check what kind of effects each individual spell might have or not. And the same problem actually comes to the programmer, because programmer, when he is trying to read all this data, he has to assume that each spell might have all kind of effects. And in order to apply it or not, he always have to check if the value is 0 or not. This is not very convenient for programmers. And this is actually why programmers come up with second solution. I used it in one of my games before. Fortunately, I did not know that it's the wrong solution as well, but let me describe you how it works. It's based on inheritance. Inheritance in programming is a very popular approach, and it's a great invention. It helps you organize your code in a much more efficient way. It helps you to reuse some of the logic you wrote before. But for these specific examples of spells, items, or quests, it doesn't work as you would expect. So how engineers usually structure spells using inheritance? They create a first abstract spell, and all other spells will inherit from it. For example, if you want to make Fireball or Frostball, you just make a new structure. You can call it something like Flying Ball Spell. You define some parameters such as distance, speed, damage, and then you create instances for your Fireballs and Frostballs. Then if you decide to add some additional behavior to such spells, you can inherit a new class, and you can call it, for example, ricochet in my example. And then you will be able to create a chain of lightning, heal chain spells like this. If you go in another way and you decide to add some kind of mass area spells such as Frost Nova or Fire Explosion, so some spells which affect many players in some specific area, you will make a new class and call it mass area spell. So far, everything looks good. But eventually, again, once your game grows, you will have new ideas for your spells, and sometimes you will come up with a spell which you might want to inherit from several different other classes. So imagine a fireball which flies over a distance, and then at the end, when it hits the target, it just makes mass damage. So you can technically inherit it from flying ball from one side, but from another point of view, you can inherit it from mass area spell. And unfortunately, multiple inheritance doesn't work in many languages. In some languages it works, but even there, it's not the best practice to use. But since we are talking about probably Unreal or Unity, people don't use it. And it will inevitably bring you to the fact that you will have to rewrite the code because you cannot reuse it all the time. And yes, and this is the best approach, actually, which I came up to eventually after making a lot of wrong solutions before. It's called composition. You can think of it as a Lego, where you have a lot of bricks of different sizes, colors, forms, and using those bricks, you can build anything you want. We call those bricks components. You can make components such as flying, deal damage, burn, slow down, area spell, stuff like this. And whenever you want to make a spell, you just create an empty entity and add all the components to this specific spell. And those components will actually describe the behavior of your spell. For example, if you want to make a fireball, you just need to put a component flying, and that flying will contain the speed and the distance. Then you add another component such as deal damage, burn damage, which will have all other parameters such as damage, maybe duration of the damage. And if you want to make a fire nova, it doesn't have flying component, but it has area spell with property such as radius. It also has deal damage component of the damage which will be done in this area. And you can add some kind of push back and add some force which will be used to push players back. My point here is that whenever you want to make a new spell, you just take a new entity and add new components. And if you miss some kind of behavior, you will be just adding new components. And the best part of such approach is that it's very easy to scale. It does not involve a lot of columns, which you saw before. And let me show you how it will actually look in our system. You can see a table, but it's definitely not huge. For example, if you take a look at Fireball, I can literally read what this Fireball can do. In the effect column, you can read like it moves linearly with speed of 10, maximum distance of 50. It does a single target effect, and this effect is dealing damage of 100. If you take a look at Frost Nova, it's an area effect of 5 radius and 5 meters radius, and in those area, it will deal damage and freeze all the enemies. For game designers, it's super easy because it's very easy to read. It's very easy to add new components, and it's just very convenient to manage all of your data. And programmers, they love this approach because they don't have to check all possible parameters if they're zeros or not. They just need to get the access to the list of all the effects each spell has and just apply those effects over the time. And you might be wondering if it's possible to do something like this using spreadsheets. Technically, yes, you can do this. Usually, developers and game designers, they agree to use special symbols as separators and special names to name the components, parameters. So technically, in spreadsheets, it might look in a very similar way. But the problem of spreadsheets is that because it was agreed not on the technical side, but more like in the verbal communication, there is a huge freedom to make a lot of mistakes. For example, you can forget the separator, you might use another separator, or you might misspell some kind of words, parameters. So a lot of mistakes can be made. But technically, yes, you can still use spreadsheets, but it's better to use some more advanced tools, such as balancing, for example, to manage such complicated data.
And now let's look at more examples of composition in practice, this time with items. I will share you a case of a real survival game, Grand Survival Raft Adventure. It's available on Google Play, you can check it out. And the idea of the game is that you're building a raft, you need to survive by collecting resources, upgrading, crafting items, exploring islands, all of this while fighting for your life against sharks, crabs, zombies, all these kind of creatures. So as any survival game, this game has like numerous items. And there are also around 100 different components or actions which can be applied to these items. And each component can also have up to 5 different parameters. If we try to use the approach of huge tables for this survival game, we would use a lot of numbers, a lot of zeros. We would come up with a table that would have around 200, 300 columns. It's definitely not user-friendly. But with composition approach, you can create a table like 6, 7 columns. It will be easy to read, easy to navigate. And this is an example. We can take any item, let's say the second one, which is a knife, and we can quickly understand what it is about, and we can quickly change and update this item remotely. So, for example, this knife, it has durability, which makes this item lose its durability and break eventually after some usage. It's wearable. It means that this item can be used to equip a hero. And we also can specify the pivot point by which it's attached to the character model. In this case, it's the right hand of the character. We also add weapon effect. This means we can make damage using this knife. Weapon action also has a bunch of parameters like attack radius, cooldown, damage delay, and so on. It has cost. It means that using the knife will consume some player energy. And rank action specifies how the item can be repaired and how many times. This is another example also from the same game, just to illustrate that composition can be used not only for spells, not only for items, but even for tutorials. So here you can literally see like the whole tutorial of the game assembled in a table, and you can easily change the places of things. You can change things remotely. So, and you can literally read the whole tutorial in just this table. We will not do it now, but just to illustrate that it's possible and it's convenient.
As a programmer, when you are trying to access all this data, there are numerous of approaches, of course, but let me show you an example of how you can get access for the consume action if we talk about game items. Consume action, it's something which restores the hit points or water level of your character, for example. This is the code. It's written for engineers. If we have any, please enjoy reading it. It's very easy to get access by just going through all the possible actions which were attached to the specific item and just checking its type, basically. And if you find the type consume, you just return it and then you apply all the values which it consists inside. The best part of this approach about scalability. As you know, when you add new features, engineers unfortunately like to break old code which used to work before you added the new feature. And the best part of composition is that it helps you avoid making such mistakes. So whenever you want to add new actions, new items, new spell effects, they will not affect the code which was written before. You just need to make new classes, describe how they will behave. So, for example, you can make a new component of flying ball or doing some kind of damage, and the code which you will be writing, it will be isolated, and it will not be reusing the code which was wrote before. It might reuse it, but it will not change it. So it's very safe and easy to scale approach. As a bonus, because we are getting a lot of questions how you can make Wheel of Fortune and battle passes, I would like to show you how you can easily do this. It looks actually very similar to what you have seen today so far. You can use the composition approach as well, but maybe composition is very big word for such easy feature. But let me just show you how Wheel of Fortune works here. You just define this new type Wheel of Fortune. You set some parameters such as names, limit of spins per day, and the biggest pain points for developers usually to describe the drop. And this is actually very similar to what you have seen in items, when you can describe all the actions and effects they might have. You just create a component, and the component consists of several parameters, such as the item which will be dropped, the amount of those items, and the chances or weight of the item to be dropped. And in this array, you just basically describe what will be inside of this Wheel of Fortune. And if later you decide to add some complexity for your Wheel of Fortune, for example, you might want to add some kind of a jackpot logic, which works in the next way. If you don't get gems on a spin, the amount of gems in the specific slot will be increased every time you spin and not getting them. So if you ever decide to make it, you just need to define a new type of component with some additional parameters such as gems increase. You will replace the first row you can see in my example with the new component. It will also drop gems, but it also have some additional parameters. And the programmers, they just need to describe that new type of component, describing the logic, how it will be increasing the amount of gems for the next spin. And the last example, I want to show you Battle Pass. It looks very similar. You just define the name, you just define the conditions when this Battle Pass will work. So you can set different dates, or maybe you can set other conditions such as player get this Battle Pass after reaching level 10 or 5. Or another way, you can A/B test Battle Passes by making multiple different Battle Passes and putting different people, giving different people different Battle Passes. And the best part is free reward column and golden rewards. In the same way as we described Wheel of Fortune, we are just describing here using components when each of the rewards will be available and how many rewards I will be able to collect. It's very easy to read, it's very visual appealing, and it's very easy to change and test all of this content.
Yeah, I think that's it, Pavel, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we hope that today you got some practical tips for your game and so some examples that are close to your games in this or that way. Yeah, and we are open to questions.
Yeah, thank you guys so much, Pavel, Julia. This has been very exciting and insightful. Yeah, I have a couple of questions. We can do that like one by one, because I have questions for further as well. But like, since we have just ended with you guys, can you maybe give examples of using composition in merge games and what benefits it gives compared to storing content in spreadsheets? I mean, I love spreadsheets, but Pavel has been giving so good examples of, better solution. So yeah.
Actually, we have clients with merge games. So I can share some of the insights we learned by working with them. Actually, merge items are very similar to the survival game in a sense. Some of the items can be used as generators, which generate drops with different chances. Some of the items, when they appear in the bubble. So you need to either use gems to get them or wait some time. Some of the items can be used to boost another item. Some of the items can cut other items. So a lot of different features might be applied for each specific item. And we are coming back to the same problem which I was describing with spells. So you either use composition to describe the logic of each of the item, or you end up having very, very long table. And merge games, they usually have a very long story, a lot of different levels or scenes, and inevitably the amount of possible ways how items could be used for your gameplay will increase. So composition here works absolutely the same way as in the survival items or spell system.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pavel. Fedor, I know you're probably, hopefully, are not asleep yet. I mean, after your presentation, not because
I'm
balance.
here yet. I'm here, and I want to thank Julie and Pavel for this presentation a lot, because as a player, as a designer who have to work with huge tables every day, it will be very cool if in new game there will be some sort of the features that they describe.
Nice, nice. Thank you. Yeah, I actually have a chance to, to answer a question as well. But meanwhile, guys, do not again hesitate to ask questions if you have any, because the speakers are very friendly and open to share the wisdom, share the expertise. This may be one of the best chances to actually use this opportunity. Yeah, so I have actually two questions for you. The first one is, you notice that analytics defined the pools of players matched together in leaderboards. Can you maybe explain how exactly you define these pools and what was the methodology? And also, how many users do you need to say that the A/B, I mean, that's another one, the A/B test was successful, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you for the question. First of all, how we define the pools. We uploaded the base of active players through the 3 days in our game, like how much players plays the game and who are they. And then we needed to divide them in groups. First of all, the groups should be big enough so the leaderboards completed with players of past, and player don't get into leaderboard with players who already saw some points. Secondly, we needed to think about how we match the players. For example, we definitely didn't want to match max level players with the not max level players. And then we looked at some statistics, some analytics, and tried to find the similar groups of players. For example, we found out that in low rating players, it doesn't much matter if a player pays something and the player don't pay anything. But the amount of games that they play really matters. So in low rating, we match players defining mostly on their player activity. And in high rating players, the amount of payments they did really matters. So there we separately matched non-pairs and pairs, for example. Yes. In this way, we created the groups that are quite similar and big enough, and then we tested it in some of our leaderboards silently, not showing the leaderboard itself, to see the statistics of how fast the leaderboards completed with players, and are the players gain the more or less same amount of scores of points. And in this way, we could find the ideal at that point distribution. But as I already told, the actual distribution, it's still have some problems that we need to deal with. And about the A/B test, you asked how many users do we need, but the question itself is not that correct in our case, because actually all the players participated in this A/B test. So we actually divided all our player base into two halves. I'm not sure if I can disclose the amount of players, but at that time, but again, it is the full base of our players, and it's a lot of people and a lot of statistics we could analyze. So yeah, it is not about the amount of players, so it's more about the analytics in our case.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much. Thank you. We probably have a time for a couple of more questions, even though we're a little bit out of time. But still, since, you know, that's a great opportunity to use you guys. So, Pavel, Julia, how does the implementation, you've been talking about the fortune wheel and battle pass. How does the implementation of these techniques and these mechanics happen from the technical point of view? I mean, is Balancer responsible for defining the content, you know, the content only of the mechanics of the feature as well? If you elaborate on that.
So I'll show you, I'll give you two answers on that, using balancing and without balancing. So if you're going to use spreadsheets to store the data for the Wheel of Fortune, let's say, your next step after defining those tables with all this data will be to probably create this JSON file out of these tables, put it somewhere on CDN storage or inject in your build directly. And then the programmer will write some classes which will be responsible for reading the data, mapping the data to the class. And only after that, you'll be thinking about the logic. If you're using services like Balancy, all what I just described, Balancy will take care for you. You don't need to think about that. So in both cases, we end up having all the classes with all the data in the game, and now we need to execute the logic. If we talk about specifically Wheel of Fortune and Battle Passes, Balancy provides you with data. So you have all the numbers, all the weights, but when it comes to the logic, like define what exactly player wins in each spin, this is what developers are responsible for. They can either do this on the backend side or the front-end side, depending on their game, how it was structured. But we're not doing the logic, we're just delivering the data, if we talk about those specific examples. And the same for Battle Pass.
All right, thanks. Julia, if you have anything to add, please do that.
I think this was an all-encompassing answer. I'll pass this one.
All right. Thank you, guys. Fedor, once again to you. We actually have a question from the audience. What kind of notifiers or any other tools do you use to promote leaderboards to show the users that they can actually take part in it?
Yes, thank you for the question. And what to start with? First of all, we made the quite huge and noticeable button in the main menu of the game with leaderboards that you want to push, and that will notify you about the leaderboards started recently. Secondly, we use push notifiers. Sometimes not. So it depends on the importance of the leaderboards that they receive on their phone. And finally, when you enter the game, you see the big screen with the notification that a new leaderboard starts with the description of it and all the rewards that you can receive there. So actually, we consider this feature as very important, and we made sure that no player will miss that the leaderboard started.
All right, Thank you. Thank you.
Or I can add one more thing, that even if player didn't see for some reason any of this notification, they will receive a special notification every time, a small notification in the game every time they receive points. So in this case, they can't miss it because the points always received in battles or in some activities. So they will see that something is going on.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I guess the final one, we're really running out of time. Sorry about that. But actually, it's the question for like all of you guys. What can you advise as a possible way to search for new feature ideas? Further, Pavel, Julia, if you feel like you have anything to add, just do that.
I think you should play a lot of games, get inspirations, maybe, and read books, of course.
For me, I would say that first of all, you have to set the goals of the feature before inspiring yourself and searching for anything, because without goals, it doesn't matter at all. And after you set the goals, you want to increase your revenue or increase engagement or something else, you need to search for the weak points of your project that can be improved. Yes, because the good things don't touch good things. You can make worse. Better make something with the weak points, and after you set the weak points, yes, go and play the other games and look for the decision they have. There was a meme like in mobile industry, someone says, "You stole my feature." No, it's not mine. Yes, but always remember about the survivor bias, that not everything that works in other projects will work in your, and you have to analyze these things also.
And I will add that to further that actually, like, I mean, you don't need to copy past. You can create something new by watching other and mixing and creating something new out of, like, taking one part here, one part there, creating something new and cool. But still, you need to play a lot of games for that to have an eye for it.
Oh, you guys are so wise. Like, play more games. Where do I find time to play more games? I mean, it's like a paradox working in the gaming industry, not really having time to play video games.
When you have passion for it, you will have time.
Oh, all right. Okay. Touche. All right. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Pavel. Thank you, Fodor, for the great insights. I'm really hoping the audience has been able to, to get something they didn't know before, they haven't known before. And thank you all who participated in today's AMA session. Thank you again so much to our speakers who have shared so much, so many insights, so much wisdom with us and expertise. Our next online AMA session will be held on July 6th, again at 3 p.m. Central European Summertime. So please mark your calendars, tell your friends, tell your colleagues, tell your industry folks. And we're going to talk about game analytics. So please register again at the GameDrive website, gamedrive.com. Tell your friends, tell everyone you know, tell everyone who you think will benefit from this. And one last thing before we end this session today, let me please remind you that if you are a mobile game developer, that's important, who has a project already published on Google Play, and you're looking for whatever, support, consulting, investments, do submit your game on the website on gamedrive.com, receive a comprehensive scope of expert evaluation, maybe investment, who knows, and, just try your luck. And this is pretty much it. Thank you guys so much again for your participation, for your time. Thank you, to the audience for watching us. Have a beautiful day ahead, and see you soon again. Thank you guys so much. Cheers.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Thank
Bye.
you.